Okay guys, this was not my planned video for this week. I was planning on doing Huron Blackheart for this Saturday's video, but a lot of people watched my video the other day where I opened up that old 3rd edition starter box set, and there was a pile of kind of old random models that was some kid's collection from a million years ago that got handed into the Games Workshop when I worked there, and I took that home and I've only recently opened it, and everybody clung to that 2nd edition metal Space Marine Dreadnought that was inside that box set, and the amount of comments for me to work on that and get that cleaned up and repaired and repainted was a lot. So I decided to shelve Huron Blackheart for now and dive straight in and do a full restoration on this Dreadnought. Now, it was already previously painted by some kid many years ago with old Citadel paint, and it was in a pretty rough state, but I wanted to try and stay as true as possible to that kid's vision of what this Dreadnought should look like. So that's what I'm gonna do. Not gonna do it with my Imperial Fist and my Flesh Tears. I don't collect Dark Angels, so this is going to be just for that kid who's probably not a kid anymore. If by some chance he sees this video, I'd love him to comment on it. Before I get into it though, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone there that continues to support all the channels that I have, whether you like Middle Earth Monday, Old World Wednesday, or the Mediocre Hobbies main channel. You guys are all awesome. Thank you guys so much for all your views, making sure that you're subscribed and commenting and all that stuff. And if you haven't been doing that, then go and do all that. And then obviously a big special thanks to everyone out there that supports me over on Patreon. You guys help keep the lights on and the cameras rolling. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much. As you know, there's a whole host of different reasons to be involved, but you guys seem to really enjoy the fact that I like to give back and do a giveaway every single month for one of my patrons. This month, I'm giving away this. So if you're in the market for a 1,000 Suns army and you want to have a chance of winning that, all you need to do is be signed up to my Patreon at any tier and you're automatically entered. Okay, time to dive in and start working on this Dreadnought. So this is the Dreadnought as I found it. And I have to admit, for a kid and having access to Games Workshop paints from back in the day, like this guy had, you know, skull white and bleached bone, and he was trying out for one of the most difficult schemes, which is of course for the Death Wing of the Dark Angels. So I think the effort that he put in was pretty good, and I must admit the results of painting that I got when I was painting stuff for 3rd edition was worse than this. So yeah, but you can see that it's in a fairly rough shape. It still somehow has its beautiful banner cresting on top of it. The glue has long since given up holding that sticker together, which is probably a good thing. It means kind of ease of removal, meaning that I can then try and do something with it a little bit later, because trying to save that banner has got to be key, right? I mean, I've seen a lot of retro Dreadnoughts around. I don't remember the last one I've seen that still had its back banner pole at all, let alone intact. And to have its actual paper banner still intact is even rarer still. I honestly have never seen one. I didn't honestly think Dreadnoughts had back banners back in the day. So that's how kind of uncommon they are, I think. Obviously, first job was to disassemble this brute, and it was not easy. The kid also did a pretty decent job of putting this thing together. I remember metal models back in the day, and they were a nightmare. So fair play to him for that. Once I finally got it all disassembled, and unfortunately I did break the banner pole off of its kind of holder. It was holding on for dear life, but it had been bent back and forth so much that it took the lightest touch for it to unfortunately finally snap. But that's okay, we'll repair and sort that out later. All of the individual components then got put in a plastic tub container and got ready for stripping. For that, we got some pure acetone. If you ever want to strip metal models, you can get acetone from like beauticians, or if you have a particularly big pharmacy that has like a nail section, you can get acetone or nail varnish remover. Just soak it in that for overnight. And then obviously before you go ahead and touch it, wear protection. So I've gotten some rubber gloves. These ones are the nitrate ones, I think. The ones that don't melt from this stuff, so they'll keep my hands safe and secure for this entire process. You can see that I've also put a different cutting mat down over my board to try and protect my surface. And I've got old toothbrushes and files and scrapey bits in order to spend some time getting these things clean. And it was stubborn. I've stripped a lot of models before, and this one was stubborn as hell. So it took me well over an hour of scraping and polishing and cleaning to get all the components looking like this, which is box fresh, brand new, ready to be kind of reassembled and finally have its place of glory that a Dreadnought like this deserves. As you can see, they're internally stamped 1993. So you can do the math on how old this kit actually is. The kid did fall down at one point, which was cleaning up mold lines and mold slippages. Obviously, but these are all metal casts, so they were press mold, which means two halves of a mold were pushed together, clamped together, and then obviously the liquid lead was then poured into that mold. If those molds weren't exactly lined up, they were off by a tiny fraction, which they always were. It left a line all the way around the piece, which you would have had to scrape off. I have reassembled the Dreadnought. I have drilled a new hole for the banner pole, which I will leave off for now. The arms aren't obviously glued on right now either. I've given it a slightly nicer base just because I think it deserves to have something a little bit special after all these years. So I got one of my 3D printed bases and stuck it down, have them stand a little bit taller in games. If he ever is fielded in a game ever again, I don't know. And then I've begun the process of painting him. So I painted Deathwing before for a couple of videos and a few stuff like that. And I'm going to go for my kind of traditional style of art, which is of course starting from the bone spray and then adding Seraphim Sepia onto that. I decided I was going to get the bone completed from start to finish first. And then I was going to work on all those other details because I knew it was going to take quite a lot of layers of kind of glazing and then quite a large amount of edge highlighting to try and make the kind of bone panels that exist for the Deathwing to kind of pop and look awesome. The other reason I didn't start any of the other details straight away is I had to figure out what the hell they were, what colors they were. Like, I'm trying to recreate what I think this kid had in his head back when he painted it. So if he was doing this back in 2nd edition, he had to have had an idea of what this Dreadnought was going to look like in his head, which was 2nd edition colors, which were obviously quite bright and vibrant. And I found the original box that this thing came in online, but it was painted as part of the green wing. No one online has one painted in the Deathwing. Like, absolutely nobody. And I know it's a bit of a controversy as to whether Dreadnoughts belong as part of the Deathwing or not, but I think they do. I mean, they're venerable Dreadnoughts. I definitely think the Deathwing does have some of them, and I think in more modern lore, they for sure do have them as part of the lore. In the 2nd edition, maybe they didn't. Maybe this kid was just way ahead of his time, realizing that these elite venerable walkers belonged in that company. Yeah, let me know what you think on that. Do Dreadnoughts belong in the first company? If they do, is there any examples of them? Like, there is now modern ones, but there's no 2nd edition ones that I can find anywhere online. This is an exclusive, guys. There's no other evidence online of one of these painted like this. So this is a world's first. Anyway, I've gotten the bone all finished now. I think it looks really tidy, really nice. It will pop a lot more when we add those transfers to it. But now it's time to add those other colors. So of course, all of the underframe and everything like that is going to get hit by a nice dark metallic color to make it all kind of pop and tidy up all those lines where the glazing has gone overboard. And then obviously there's all the other colors we have to decide. So when I look back, what I did do is I grabbed the 2nd edition Deathwing Terminators. There is examples of them online, including ones painted by the Envy Metal team, which gave me a better understanding of what colors should be used. So I tried to use that. So I went all the piping and ductwork and all those kind of bits across the entire model. We actually did in a bright, vibrant red. Normally, for me, they would be black. They would be a very much, and in the background kind of accessory to these pieces, but that is not the way they used to do it back in 2nd edition. Then all the casings and extra details on the guns were done in a dark angelsy green color. So I base coated them all in that color. And with that, we were kind of ready to start moving on to some of the other more ostentatious details, which usually just means the gold sections, because there is a few extra details of gold that exist around this model. Different symbols and stuff like that, a lot around the sarcophagus front, including like the little window frame bits and all those. So we got those done in a nice strong gold tone Retributor. I love Retributor Armor Gold, just does such a great job. But when this detail is done, we'll then be ready to kind of shade this entire piece down. Now, I briefly talked about this whole project on my Twitch stream last night, that this was a thing that I was working on, that I wasn't planning on working on, and it just kind of came out of nowhere. But I have no desire to ever do Dark Angels for 2nd edition. I actually have plans to start a 2nd edition project soon, but I'm going to be doing Space Orcs and my friend is doing Blood Angels, and then we'll play a couple of games against each other for a bit of fun there. So I'm kind of wondering, is this thing going to be wasted on my shelf, and would somebody else get more joy and love at it? So I was thinking about maybe selling this thing afterwards. So if anyone out there is curious and they like what they see at the very end of this video and maybe they want to purchase this thing, yeah, shoot me a message on Instagram. Maybe we can work something out and it can go to someone who will actually put it on a table, roll some dice in anger with it. Because not only do I enjoy, in fact, I love seeing old models brought back to life. It's one of my favorite things in the whole hobby. The whole hobby is to see old, forgotten models brought back to life. But I also love seeing them put back on the table and being used in games again. I think I've got to watch Toy Story a few too many times when I'm a kid and think this Dreadnought's going to be sad if it's not being used. But I know I will never use it, so potentially I'll let it go. Potentially I'll just leave it in my cabinet as a nice display piece forevermore. We'll have to wait and see. Okay, so as you can see, I'm building up those red tones. I've gone up through a base coat, a mid-tone, and a highlight to really make them bright, vibrant, and pop, which is really what we kind of second edition was all about, the kind of primary colors, and then they really just pushed them to the nth degree with the tone selection. They were just always kind of garish looking. Second edition has that kind of garish look to it. That's probably because they put all the models on those silly green bases, which I did not do, and I will never apologize for not doing it. After that, we tidied up all of the metallic sections. We just went back in with the dark silver again, and tidied all those bits up, leaving the black wash we applied in all the nooks and crannies and recesses and stuff like that. And then the green gave me kind of the most trouble. I've never been very good at painting dark angels. So I started with a really dark green, and then I went up to like Warpstone Glow, and I just mixed that 50-50 with the base tone. And then I ended up getting Moot Green, and I didn't take that as pure. I just mixed that into that same mix I was already working with, just add that color into it. And I kind of carefully, as I could, went around and highlighted those different sections of the gun just to make it pop a little bit more. And add that nice bit of green aesthetic, like the Deathwing Terminators I was looking at previously. The gun casings of them were this green color, unless you were like the Flamer or the Melta, because then they were red, so it was a bit confusing. But I had to pull that green in just to make it sit with the second edition Dark Angels style. And this is that last highlight that I did. Like I said, I mixed Moot Green into the mix, and then I started to do kind of an edge highlight plus, if you'll call it. A little bit of edge highlight, but then on the end of the gun I went a little bit overboard. We got some nice, bright, vibrant gold to highlight all of the Retributor that got shaded down, just to make it pop. And I got a white over that scroll work just below it as well, and I tidied that up as well later on. And now it's my favorite section. I love transfers. I will always love transfers. I pulled up the image of the kids' Dreadnought again, and I tried to see if anyone's matched. And I found a few that would work. So I got them cut out and applied using the micro sol, micro set, and some contrast medium to get them looking like they're blended into the piece, which is always fun to do. I always tend to go overboard with transfers. As many as I can fit onto a model I will apply, because I just love them. Even ones like this where you have the kind of first company symbol and then you can throw the number on top of it, so you're layering transfers to give you an entirely different result. I love that. I think it's just so cool. And a lot of things people don't realize you can do that. Now on to the most sensitive part of this restoration, which is of course the paper transfer, the 33-year-old sticker, which is rough. The glue has all gone off. It's torn, it's frayed, it's crinkled, it's sad. So what I did is I got it back into its original place. I did some bending and cleaning, and then I applied some strong PVA glue to the back of it, and I did it kind of in like a soaking method. I really wanted to get it on, but it wasn't drying fast enough, and it kept peeling away, and I didn't want to like clamp it between anything, because the PVA glue would then just bleed through and it would probably stick to it. So what I ended up doing is actually grabbed some super glue and I applied that between the two as well, a little line around the edges, squished it together, which obviously made the sticker quite hard, which is exactly what I wanted. And then when it was all set, I went back in with some paint and I just freshened up the red and the kind of white border sections of the paper. I didn't go near the beautiful winged, scythed Dark Angel motif in the middle. I wouldn't have the courage to put a paintbrush anywhere near that, but it was in pretty good nick. It was just the edges of the banner that kind of got wrecked. And I was able to bring those back to life with some red and white paint fairly easily. With the banner looking refreshed and back on its banner pole, it was time for the final assembly of this awesome second edition 33-year-old retro Deathwing Dark Angels Dreadnought. That was a mouthful, but I mean, I think the results speak for itself. If you can see what we started with, understanding what our vision wanted to be, and then just sticking to our guns, having some patience, and thoroughly enjoying the process, I was left with something that I was very, very proud of. I mean, there's something to me, like I said, about taking something that was left unloved in a box for 25, 30 years, and then bringing it back to life like this. And I'm as proud of this model as I am to any other model I've ever painted. I think it's absolutely incredible. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing this relic come back to life and be given its kind of its pride and glory like it deserves. So let me know what you guys thought about this video in the comments below. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the video. Please do check out Patreon. There's a bunch of reasons to get involved. And thank you so much. And I'll see you guys in the next video.